CCAN has been on the front lines of all the environmental efforts over the last 20 years. We are very copacetic. They believe in creating what Jesse Jackson used to call street heat, of organizing people in the communities and the civic associations, churches, and synagogues. And I hold the same belief. You know, we can try to convince with logic and science some of my colleagues, but ultimately mobilizing thousands of people across the state is what's crucial to passing progressive legislation. And that's a philosophy CCAN's held. They've been clear on the issues. They've worked in coalition when necessary. So they've been a valuable asset to me and to the state of Maryland. So I'm pleased to work with them.
You've made a tremendous difference in the state's renewable energy portfolio. I remember, you know, a lot of that we've done, and just many other initiatives. As we all know, that there is a climate crisis, and there's no, you know, when you first started it, there was a lot of folks denying that, but I think there's now a universal acceptance that this is where we are, and your battles have not been easy. I mean, they've been major issues, and you know, you guys didn't always have some of the same weapons at your disposal as some of the others, but you were tenacious, you were dogged, and always very, you know, friendly. You guys have really got after it. You have a heart for this country, a heart for this state, its overall well-being. And like I said, Maryland's a better place because of your organization. And I look forward to at least another 50 years of you guys doing what we need done. So congratulations to your organization.
That act in particular was spurred, you know, partly or mostly by CCAN's campaign in the district to adopt a climate tax. The climate tax campaign was, shall we say, relentless, and it went on for almost 2 years, and it was incredibly effective. Without that campaign, we would not have had the Clean Energy DC Omnibus Act, or we would not have passed it. And that act created the policies that are essential to getting the district to a 50% carbon emission reduction over this decade. So, you know, it was a real pleasure to work with the advocates at CCAN, and, you know, I appreciate them very much for helping us achieve our climate goals in DC.
And I just want to thank the organization and Mike Tidwell individually, you know, for being such a vital part of what's happened here in Maryland on the clean energy space over the last couple of decades.
Thank you, CCAN, for conspiring to save the world.
Thank you, Chesapeake Climate Action Network, for being a great client.
Thank you, CCAN, for your collaboration and work on the climate issues.
There's a phrase, la lucha continua, the struggle continues. So I want to thank CCAN for being part of that struggle so far and continuing to be part of that struggle. Thank you, CCAN. You do a great work.
Thanks for a job well done, and looking forward to working with you for years to come.
And I just want to say to Chesapeake Climate Action Network, thank you so much.
Evening, I want to make sure I take this opportunity to congratulate CCAN, its staff, its volunteers, its leadership on a terrific 20 years. CCAN has quickly become a leader in this movement, and I am deeply in its debt.
Thank you so much, Chesapeake Climate Action Network.
Thank you, CCAN, for always being there for the people of Maryland and the Chesapeake Bay region.
Thank you, Chesapeake Climate Action Network. Here's to another 20 years working together.
Thank you, CCAN, for all that you have done, all that you will do. It means the world to the world.
Mike, it's been a long 20-year partnership. I guess I would look at it, you know, starting back in my very first term. You know, I was on the House Economic Matters Committee, which deals with all the energy policies. So CCAN, you know, I think, and you individually, we got started in that very first term when we created one of the first, at least, renewable portfolio standards in the nation. And now, again, we've been playing around with that original bill ever since. But But I think the relationship started way back then. I think Chesapeake Climate Action Network filled a void. We didn't, I think until then, I had been told, even prior to my arrival, that there weren't really that many grassroots organizations that had coalitions in place, information from around the country to help us build public policy initiatives in the clean energy space. And so I think it started way back then in my very first term, right when you all were, CCAN was actually, I think you founded the organization. So, we kind of have sort of parallel paths. And then, all the way later to just a few years ago when I was sponsored the Clean Energy Jobs Act, in which you were on the ground trying to get me votes. In fact, I will never forget that over in the House, I think the bill passed by one vote. I have two of my delegates are actually over there, but I think it passed like 23-22 or 20. I mean, I'm sorry, 12-11 or 13-11 or 12. So, and late, and folks didn't think it was going to get done. So I think from the original RPS through the Clean Energy Jobs Act to the things we've been working on the last few sessions, I've only served on two committees in the General Assembly, the House Economic Matters Committee and the Senate Finance Committee, which just happens to, consistent with, your core mission as well. So I think it's been a great collaboration is how I would characterize it from 2003 to 2022, and we'll see where we go from here.
It has been an absolute thrill to work in partnership with Chesapeake Climate Action Network, and it has been a crucial piece of my work as a legislator. I have come into the General Assembly committed to make the climate crisis a top priority in my work, to really to respond to the climate crisis, to build a clean energy economy that is grounded in justice and good jobs. And Chesapeake Climate Action Network has been the perfect partner to work with this on. CCAN has a history in Annapolis, a positive reputation in Annapolis, and a doggedness to get the work done. And so from my very first session, we worked together to pass the Clean Energy Jobs Act, and it was a tough one. It was a roller coaster ride. And, Mike and Brooke and folks were in my office pretty much every other day while we're working on plan, B, then plan C, then plan D, then plan E, but we got it done. And on sine die, it was an honor to defend that bill on the floor and then to celebrate. And, really that was just the beginning. And since then, the CCAN has continued this effort through the pandemic, highlighting during the pandemic the way that the pandemic is, just really a model, a piece of, how bad things could be when we don't take international, climate policy seriously, the damage and the destruction to human lives as well as to the economy and the entire global community. And continuing that work really with a huge success in the last legislative session with Climate Solutions Now Act. And you know what? CCAN does not rest on its laurels. As soon as Climate Solutions Now Act passed, Mike was on the phone with me talking about what are we going to do next and how are we going to implement this bill. And so I love it. It's a thrill to work with CCAN, and I intend to do it for the foreseeable future until we have solved this climate crisis in a way that is just and equitable.
The thing about CCAN is that you're committed, you're emotional, you're optimistic, and you know how the legislative process works. It's a pleasure working with CCAN because CCAN understands how the game is played and they use the rules to win.
And I just want to thank the organization and Mike Tidwell individually, for being such a vital part of what's happened here in Maryland on the clean energy space over the last couple of decades.
Thank you, Chesapeake Climate Action Network, for being a great client.
Thank you, CCAN, for conspiring to save the world.
Thank you, CCAN, for your collaboration and work on the climate issues.
There's a phrase, la lucha continua, the struggle continues. So I want to thank CCAN for being part of that struggle so far and continuing to be part of that struggle. Thank you, CCAN. You do a great work.
Thanks for a job well done, and looking forward to working with you for years to come.
And I just want to say to Chesapeake Climate Action Network, thank you so much.
Evening, I want to make sure I take this opportunity to congratulate CCAN, its staff, its volunteers, its leadership on a terrific 20 years. CCAN has quickly become a leader in this movement. And I am deeply in its debt.
Thank you so much, Chesapeake Climate Action Network.
Thank you, CCAN, for always being there for the people of Maryland and the Chesapeake Bay region.
Thank you, Chesapeake Climate Action Network. Here's to another 20 years working together.
Thank you, CCAN, for all that you have done, all that you will do. It means the world to the world.
A terrific partner and great leader in all things having to do with preserving, protecting the environment in Virginia, and working with me and many others in the General Assembly on issues having to do with clean energy and making sure that we get to net zero as quickly as humanly possible. I can't say enough good things about CCAN and its staff and its leadership. One of the remarkable things we were able to accomplish a couple of years ago was the passage of the Virginia Clean Economy Act, and CCAN was at the table and an enormously helpful asset to the process. You know, passing a piece of legislation like this, frankly, takes a small miracle, and the bill could have died at least a dozen times. But having CCAN at the table with its expertise and its enthusiasm and its political savvy and its strength as an organization, both from a political perspective and a technical perspective, was enormously helpful. And frankly, we couldn't have gotten it done without CCAN's help. So I personally am in debt to CCAN, and much more importantly, the Commonwealth and the broader the world is greatly indebted to CCAN for the terrific work that it has done, and I know will continue to do. I look forward to working with CCAN on all things having to do with the environment going forward.
I've had the opportunity to work with CCAN over the last few years on legislation in Montgomery County as well as in Maryland. We worked together on community solar, building energy performance standard in Montgomery County. We also worked together on the climate solutions now in the Maryland General Assembly that passed in 2022 session. And it has been great collaborating with CCAN. We have organized rallies together. We have collaborated on writing op-eds. We have collaborated on being at community events to create awareness around these issues. And we have also collaborated on strategy. We are in a climate crisis, and it's really important that we work together with other organizations as well as community activists and people in the environmental community and broadly to make sure that we are bringing everyone together to build a more stronger, more inclusive, and more just climate movement. So it has been a great experience for me, and I look forward to continuing that collaboration.
And well, let's see, I started working as an intern at CCAN in like 2006 or 7. I was a communications intern and really was inspired by first your book, Mike. As I came in as a freshman at the University of Maryland, one of the first books I read, it was our first year book, was The Ravaging Tide. It spoke volumes to me in the moment. This is coming off the heels of the work that Al Gore had done, and the opportunity to work at a local organization fighting climate change, fighting the impacts of climate change, meant volumes to me as a young college student. So, you know, it kind of set the foundation for me as a young adult. And I think the lessons and the opportunities, both organizing, both from, you know, I think also from a moral perspective on climate change and our duty to step up and do everything in our power to address it, really started with my interaction with CCAN. So I can't thank you guys enough for the work you do and the work that you will do and the work that we'll take part in together, because I definitely intend on continuing to work with you guys into the future.
And I just want to thank the organization and Mike Tidwell individually, you know, for being such a vital part of what's happened here in Maryland on the clean energy space over the last couple of decades.
Thank you, Chesapeake Climate Action Network, for being a great client.
Thank you, CCAN, for conspiring to save the world.
Thank you, CCAN, for your collaboration and work on the climate issues.
There's a phrase, la lucha continua, the struggle continues. So I want to thank CCAN for being part of that struggle so far and continuing to be part of that struggle. Thank you, CCAN. You do a great work.
Thanks for a job well done, and looking forward to working with you for years to come.
And I just want to say to Chesapeake Climate Action Network, thank you so much.
Thank you, CCAN, for always being there for the people of Maryland and the Chesapeake Bay region.
Evening, I want to make sure I take this opportunity to congratulate CCAN, its staff, its volunteers, its leadership on a terrific 20 years. CCAN has quickly become a leader in this movement, and I am deeply in its debt.
Thank you so much, Chesapeake Climate Action Network.
Thank you, Chesapeake Climate Action Network. Here's to another 20 years working together.
Thank you, CCAN, for all that you have done, all that you will do. It means the world to the world.
It's been delightful to work with CCAN over the past few years, especially Harrison Wallace, where we worked together to get the Clean Economy Act, the Solar Freedom Act, RGGI, and just a wide variety of bills that took Virginia from the back of the pack to a national leader in addressing the climate crisis. You all were integral partners in that, but you were also delightful to work with. So happy 20th anniversary.
We've had a great experience representing CCAN as a client in litigation over the course of many years. In order to safeguard public health and the environment, sometimes it's necessary to access the court system. And that might be in a situation where a polluter or an agency isn't following what's required under the law, and we have to take them to court. In those kinds of situations, we often partner with membership groups like CCAN in order to be able to access the judicial system. And CCAN has just been a fantastic partner for this purpose. They have members all over the state of Maryland. These are deeply caring and concerned people, and it's been a wonderful experience working with those members. Anne Haveman, CCAN's attorney, is fantastic. We love working with Anne. So it's been just a great experience.
Working with CCAN to me has been one of the great joys of my political career, because you never know what to expect, and you're dealing with a group of amazingly creative and nimble and passionate people. I think the first thing I ever did was to try to get Mike Tidwell out of jail, or to at least get charges dropped against him, when I think he scaled one of the buildings. I can't remember if it was the EPA or NOAA or something, but he was out there. But I tried to get some charges dropped. I think I succeeded in getting some charges dropped against him. But I've been swimming in sub-freezing temperatures in the Chesapeake Bay in the middle of January with CCAN. We worked to dramatically expand the state's renewable energy portfolio. In Annapolis, we got done the Green Maryland Act to make sure that there is composting and recycling in all of the state government buildings and departments. And I don't know, I've had such great experiences just fighting for common sensible things with CCAN. And I want to thank its visionary and heroic founder, Mike Tidwell, for educating us always 2 or 3 steps before the curve. And I'll never forget his book Bayou Farewell, which I loved so much, which was a very early wake-up call for me about what was taking place with climate change around the country and a lot of our most precious habitats and watersheds. So anyway, I've got nothing but the greatest feelings about CCAN, and I'm proud that I've been there with them for a lot of the great fights. But I think that the sweetest songs remain to be sung, as Whitman said, and our greatest battles still are ahead of us. But thank you for everything you've been able to do over the last 20 years, CCAN. Thank you for not just being environmental visionaries, but also anchored so deeply in our community and with our young people. Really means a lot.
And I just want to thank the organization and Mike Tidwell individually, for being such a vital part of what's happened here in Maryland on the clean energy space over the last couple of decades.
Thank you, Chesapeake Climate Action Network, for being a great client.
Thank you, CCAN, for conspiring to save the world.
Thank you, CCAN, for your collaboration and work on the climate issues.
There's a phrase, la lucha continua, the struggle continues. So I want to thank CCAN for being part of that struggle so far and continuing to be part of that struggle. Thank you, CCAN. You do a great work.
Thanks for a job well done, and looking forward to working with you for years to come.
And I just want to say to Chesapeake Climate Action Network, thank you so much.
Thank you, CCAN, for always being there for the people of Maryland and the Chesapeake Bay region.
Evening, I want to make sure I take this opportunity to congratulate CCAN, its staff, its volunteers, its leadership on a terrific 20 years. CCAN has quickly become a leader in this movement, and I am deeply in its debt.
Thank you so much, Chesapeake Climate Action Network.
Thank you, Chesapeake Climate Action Network. Here's to another 20 years working together.
Thank you, CCAN, for all that you have done, all that you will do. It means the world to the world.